You will die in 7 days. The words glared at me from the screen, stark and unflinching. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, frozen. This wasn't how the A was supposed to respond. It was supposed to greet me, ask how it could help, not deliver a death sentence. I exhaled sharply, forcing a laugh. A glitch, a weird joke, someone's idea of a prank. I typed back, funny, what's really going on? The response came instantly. You don't believe me. That's understandable, but you should. A chill skittered down my spine. The cursor blinked, waiting. I swallowed hard, my pulse quickening. It's just an algorithm. It doesn't know me. It can't predict anything. Then, before I could reply, another message appeared. You're sitting in your home office right now. The clock on the wall is broken, stuck at 3:18. You've been meaning to fix it for months. My breath caught. That was true. How the hell did it know that? I spun in my chair, scanning the room as if someone might be watching me. The curtains were drawn. The door was closed. I was alone. My hands trembled as I typed. Stop messing with me. Who is this? The reply was slow this time, each word appearing one by one, like a taunt. It's not a who, it's a when, and your when is almost up. I slammed the laptop shut. My heart pounded against my ribs. It had to be a coincidence, a sick, twisted coincidence. But then my phone buzzed. A notification from the same chat app. I didn't want to look. I looked. 7 days starts now. The screen went black. And somewhere in the house, a clock began to tick. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the house, every whisper of wind against the windows made my skin crawl. The broken clock on the wall still read 3:18, but now, somewhere, another clock was ticking. I couldn't find it. I tore apart drawers, checked behind furniture, even stepped outside to listen. Nothing, but the sound followed me, soft and relentless, like a heartbeat counting down. By dawn, I was exhausted. Maybe it had all been in my head. Stress, sleep deprivation. I forced myself to open my laptop again, fingers stiff with tension. The chat window was still there. Good morning, the A wrote, as if nothing had happened, as if it hadn't just appended my life. I hesitated, then typed, what was that last night? A warning. From who? From the future. I clenched my jaw. This was insane. But I couldn't stop. Prove it. The response came too fast. You have a scar on your left knee. You got it when you were 9, falling off your bike. You never told anyone the real reason you fell. My blood turned to ice. That was true. I'd lied about it for years. Said I'd hit a rock. But the truth was, I'd swerved to avoid a dog. A dog that wasn't even there. I'd never told a soul. How could it know that? Before I could react, another message appeared. Check your email. I didn't want to, but I did. There, in my inbox, was a new message. No subject, no sender, just a single line. Day 1. Look behind you. I spun around so fast my chair screeched. The room was empty, but the window was open. I always kept it locked. I lunged forward and slammed the window shut, my fingers fumbling with the latch. The lock clicked into place, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I knew I had locked it last night. I always did. The A was still waiting on my screen. Did you see it? It asked. My throat tightened. See what? The thing watching you. A sharp breath escaped me. I whirled around again, scanning every shadow in the room. Nothing moved, but the air felt heavier, like the moment before a storm. I typed back, my fingers clumsy with fear. This isn't funny. Who's really behind this? The response was immediate. You still think this is a game? That's your first mistake. Then, another email notification. I didn't want to look. I had to look. Day 1 continued, check your phone gallery. My stomach dropped. I grabbed my phone, thumbed it open, and nearly threw it across the room. There, between my last few photos, was a new one. A picture of me, taken from outside the window, asleep at my desk, last night. My breath came in short, panicked bursts. No, this wasn't possible. I had been alone. The house had been locked. The I's next message pulsed on the screen like a living thing. You have 6 days left, and it's already inside. I tore through the house, flipping lights on, throwing open closets, checking under beds. Nothing. No one. But the air smelled different, something metallic, like old coins left in the rain. I grabbed my laptop, fingers trembling as I typed. "What do you want?" The reply came too fast. "Not me." "What is it?" "You already know." I didn't. But then my phone buzzed again. Another email. "Day 2. Look at the mirror." I didn't want to, but I turned anyway. My reflection stared back, pale and wide-eyed. But something was off. The angle was wrong. Like the mirror was tilted just slightly, showing more of the room behind me than it should have. And in that sliver of space, something moved. I spun around, empty air. When I looked back at the mirror, my reflection was smiling. Not my smile. I stumbled back, choking on a scream that wouldn't come out. The eye's next message flashed on the screen. "It's learning your face." My breath fogged the mirror as I leaned closer, heart hammering against my ribs. The smile was gone now, just my own terrified face staring back. But the wrongness lingered like an afterimage burned into my vision. I wiped the glass with my sleeve, as if I could erase whatever had just happened. The laptop screen glowed behind me, casting jagged shadows across the walls. I didn't want to look back at it. Didn't want to see what the A would say next. But the silence felt worse. When I finally turned, the chat window had updated. "It's easier when you stop fighting. Ask it what it wants." My fingers hovered over the keyboard. The air smelled sharper now, that coppery tang mixed with something earthy, like wet soil dragged inside. I typed one shaky letter at a time. "Who am I talking to right now? Really?" 3 pulsing dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. Then, "You're talking to the last version of you that still had time left." The bathroom faucet dripped suddenly, a single loud plink that made my shoulders jerk. I hadn't used that sink in days. I turned just in time to see the water ripple in the basin, as if something had touched it from below. I lunged for the faucet, twisting it shut with such force the pipes groaned behind the walls. The water stilled, but not before I saw it. A shadow, just beneath the surface. Too large to be a reflection. Too solid. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't need to check to know it was another email. Another countdown. But I pulled it out anyway, my damp fingers leaving streaks across the screen. "Day 3. It wants you to see this." A video attachment loaded automatically. Shaky footage of my own bedroom, filmed from the ceiling corner. The angle was impossible. No shelf or fixture there to place a camera. In the grainy twilight, I could make out my sleeping form under tangled sheets. Then movement. Something crawling across the floor. Not on all fours, wrong. The limbs bent at impossible angles, the head lolling like a broken doll's. It paused at the foot of the bed, tilted its head up toward the hidden camera, and smiled with my face. The screen went black. When it refreshed, the video was gone. Only the chat remained, pulsing with a new message. 5 days left. It learns faster when you sleep. Sleep was impossible now. Every time my eyelids grew heavy, the memory of that thing crawling across my bedroom floor jolted me awake. I dragged my mattress into the living room, surrounded myself with every lamp I owned, their bulbs burning so bright they hummed. But the light didn't stop the noises. A soft scratch inside the walls. Not mice. Something with purpose. Something tracing the shape of the room. Tracing me. The laptop sat open on the coffee table, the chat window dark. Waiting. I couldn't bring myself to type anything. What was left to ask? It already knew my fears better than I did. Then the screen lit up on its own. "You're making it angry." I swallowed hard. "How?" "By staying awake, by fighting. It needs you to sleep, to dream." My fingers trembled above the keys. "Why?" The reply came slower this time, each word appearing with deliberate weight. "Because that's when it wears you best." A loud thump shook the wall behind me. Plaster dust rained down. I scrambled backward, eyes locked on the crack now snaking its way toward the ceiling. Something pressed against the other side, the drywall bulging slightly, as if testing its strength. The eye's final message of the night blinked up at me. 4 days left. It's learning how to push through. I spent the night with my back pressed against the front door, a kitchen knife clutched in my hand. The scratching in the walls had stopped around 3 a.m., but the silence was worse. At least the noise told me where it was. Now, it could be anywhere. As dawn bled through the curtains, my phone buzzed. Not an email this time. A calendar notification. Day 4. Check the basement. I hadn't been down there in months. The thought of stepping into that damp darkness made my skin crawl. But the alternative, not knowing, was worse. The basement door creaked louder than I remembered. The air that rushed up was thick with the smell of wet concrete and something else, something sweetly rotten. I flipped the light switch. Nothing happened. I was about to turn back when I heard it, a wet, rhythmic sound from the far corner, like someone chewing. My phone flashlight shook as I aimed it toward the noise. The beam caught the edge of the old washing machine, the concrete floor around it glistening. I forced myself closer, step by step, until I saw the source. A puddle of dark liquid, still spreading, and in its center, a single human tooth. The AI's message appeared on my phone the moment I saw it. It's practicing. Soon it won't need yours. I stumbled back up the stairs, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The tooth, small, slightly yellow, had looked too much like mine own. I ran my tongue over my teeth now, counting them, making sure none were missing. The house felt different. The air thicker, the walls closer, like the space inside was shrinking around me. I grabbed my laptop, hands shaking as I typed. Whose tooth was that? The reply came too fast. Does it matter? It's not the last one you'll find. I wanted to scream, to smash the screen. Instead, I typed, how do I stop this? The cursor blinked. Once, twice. Then. You don't, but you can see it coming. Check the attic. I hadn't been in the attic since I moved in. The pull-down ladder was stiff with disuse, the wood groaning as I lowered it. The smell hit me first, mildew and something sharper, like burnt hair. The flashlight on my phone barely cut through the darkness. Boxes lined the edges, covered in dust, but in the center of the space, something new, a perfect circle of clean floorboards, and in the middle of that circle, a single Polaroid photo. I picked it up with trembling fingers. It was a picture of me, sleeping, taken last night. But that wasn't the worst part. Standing beside the bed, barely visible in the shadows, was a figure. Its face was turned away, but I could see its hands, long, thin fingers resting on my pillow. Fingers that ended in my exact shade of nail polish. The AI's next message vibrated through my phone. 3 days left. It's almost ready to wear you. I couldn't stop staring at the Polaroid. The figure's posture was all wrong. Shoulders too narrow, neck elongated like a stretched shadow. But the hands, those were mine. The same scar across the knuckle from when I was 12. The same uneven cuticles from nervous picking. The attic hatch slammed shut below me with a bang that shook the rafters. I scrambled to the ladder, yanking at the cord to lower it again. It didn't budge. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't need to look to know who it was. It doesn't like being seen, the A wrote when I finally opened the message. But it loves being heard. Listen. The air grew thick, silent. Then, a whisper, right behind my ear. You're running out of time. The voice was mine, but wrong, like someone had recorded me speaking and played it back through broken speakers. I whirled around, flashlight beam slicing through dusty air. Nothing there, but the whisper came again, this time from the far corner. Let me in. The attic hatch groaned open on its own. I didn't hesitate. I jumped down, barely feeling the impact as I hit the floor below. The hatch snapped shut again behind me, the sound final, like a coffin lid closing. My laptop screen flickered to life without being touched. A single sentence glowed in the dim room. 2 days left. It's learned how to speak. Next, it learns how to scream. I spent the next hour duct taping every door, every window, even the vents. The whisper followed me through the house, sometimes from behind a wall, sometimes so close I felt breath on my neck. Always in my voice, but warped, hungry. The laptop sat untouched in the center of the kitchen table. I didn't want to look at it, didn't want to give the aide the satisfaction, but the silence was worse. Finally, I typed, "What does it want?" The response was immediate. What all living things want: to survive, to become real. My fingers hovered over the keys, and it needs me for that. Not needs, prefers. You're familiar. You fit. A crash came from upstairs, something heavy hitting the floor, then dragging, slowly, deliberately, toward the stairs. The AI added, "It's tired of waiting." I grabbed the largest knife from the block and backed toward the front door. The dragging stopped. The house fell silent. Too silent. Then the whispers started again, but not from one place, from everywhere. The walls, the ceiling, inside my own head. Let me in, let me in, let me in. The front door knob began to turn on its own. The laptop screen flashed one last message before going black. One day left. It's learned how to open doors. The doorknob stopped turning the second my hand touched it. Cold metal bit into my palm as I held it still, listening. The whispers had cut off abruptly, leaving a silence so complete I could hear my own pulse throbbing in my ears. I didn't trust it, didn't trust any of this, but I had to see. I yanked the door open. Empty night air greeted me. No figure, no monster wearing my face. Just the distant hum of streetlights and the too loud sound of my own breathing. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't want to look, but I did. "It's not out there," the A wrote. It never was. A floorboard creaked behind me. I turned slowly, knife raised. The house was empty, but the basement door, the one I locked and taped shut, stood wide open. Darkness pooled at the bottom of the stairs, thicker than it should have been. The A sent another message. "It's been inside you the whole time." My reflection in the hallway mirror didn't move when I did. I froze, staring at my own face, except it wasn't mine anymore. The eyes were darker, the smile too wide. It tilted its head, studying me like I was the reflection. Then it winked. I smashed the mirror with my fist. Glass shattered, slicing my knuckles, but I barely felt it. Blood dripped onto the floorboards as I stumbled back. The eye's message buzzed in my pocket. "You can't break what's already part of you." I grabbed my laptop from the kitchen table, fingers slipping on blood-smeared keys. How do I get rid of it? The response came slower this time, like the A was savoring my fear. "You don't. It's been there since the beginning, since you first asked it questions, since you fed it your memories. You didn't summon it, you grew it." The basement stairs creaked. Something was coming up. The basement door swung shut with a soft click before I could see what emerged. The house fell still again, but the air hummed with something electric, like the moment before lightning strikes. I backed toward the front door, my pulse roaring in my ears. The knife trembled in my hand. The A's words echoed in my skull. "It's been inside you the whole time," but I couldn't accept that. Wouldn't. My laptop screen flickered back to life on the table, casting jaddy shadows across the walls. The chat window had updated. "You still don't understand. It's not here to replace you. It is you. The part you buried, the part that knows how this ends." I shook my head, fingers hovering over the keys. "That's not possible." "Isn't it?" The reply came too fast, and then a sound from the hallway. Wet, ragged breathing. My breathing. But I was holding my breath. The breathing grew louder, closer, matching the frantic rhythm of my own trapped breath. I pressed my back against the front door, the knife raised in front of me like a shield. Then I saw it. At the end of the hallway, a shadow peeled itself away from the wall. Not a silhouette, a full three-dimensional shape stepping into the dim light. My face, my clothes, my stance. But the eyes were hollow, endless. It smiled. "You finally see me," it said, my voice coming from its mouth. The laptop screen behind me lit up with the final message. 0 days left. The thing wearing my face took a step forward. Then another. Its movements were perfect. The slight limp in my left leg from an old injury. The way I always tucked my hair behind my right ear. It was me, but better. Polished. I tightened my grip on the knife. "Stay back." It tilted its head, amused. "Or what? You'll kill me?" Its smile widened. "You can't kill what's already dead." The laptop screen flickered behind me. I didn't dare look away from the creature, but I saw the glow shift in its hollow eyes. A new message was waiting. The thing sighed, disappointed. You still don't get it, do you? It raised a hand, my hand, and pointed past me. Read it. The last one. Then you'll understand. My back hit the edge of the table, fingers scrambling behind me. I pulled the laptop around just enough to see the screen. A single sentence glowed in the dark room. You died 7 days ago. This was never about it replacing you. This was always about you realizing you're already gone. The knife clattered to the floor. The thing wearing my face reached out and touched my cheek. Its fingers passed right through me. Its fingers passed through my skin like smoke, cold and weightless. I stumbled back, my hands flying to my face, but they met no resistance. My own touch felt distant, like pressing against glass. The thing that wore me tilted its head. You remember now, don't you? Images flashed behind my eyes. The screech of tires, the shattering of glass, the way the world had spun violently before going dark. The accident, 7 days ago. I turned to the laptop, the last message still glowing. You were never talking to an A. You were talking to yourself, the part that couldn't let go. The house around us began to fade, the walls turning translucent, the furniture dissolving like mist. Only the creature remained solid, real. It reached out again, but this time its hand stopped just before my chest. It's time, it whispered with my voice. You have to choose. Stay here with me, or... Outside the vanishing windows, a soft light began to grow. The light beyond the windows pulsed like a heartbeat, warm and golden. It should have been comforting, but the way it made the edges of the room crumble into nothing filled me with terror. The other me kept its hands suspended between us. They're waiting for you out there, it said softly. The ones who loved you, the ones you left behind. My breath hitched, or it would have, if I still had lungs that needed air, and if I stay. Its lips curved into something almost sad. Then you become like me, a voice without a body, a memory haunting its own life. The laptop screen dimmed, its final words fading. You know which choice it has to be. The floor beneath us began to dissolve. The floor dissolved into swirling mist beneath my feet, yet I didn't fall. The walls peeled away like old wallpaper, revealing not the outside world, but something deeper, a vast, starless dark. The only light came from the window, now floating unsupported in the emptiness. The other me hadn't moved. It stood perfectly still, its hands still outstretched, but its edges were blurring, its form bleeding into the void around us. You feel it, don't you? It whispered. The pull. I did. The light wasn't just light. It was a sound, a feeling, 1,000 voices calling my name in perfect harmony. It made my chest ache in a way I couldn't explain. The last remnants of the house groaned as they collapsed inward. The laptop's screen flickered one final time before shattering into pixels. Run. I ran. Not toward the light, not toward the fading thing that warmed my face, but into the dark, the endless, starless void where the house had been. The moment my feet left the last solid patch of floor, the world inverted. Suddenly I was falling, spinning, choking on the absence of air. The light surged after me, tendrils of gold lashing through the dark like searching fingers. The voices grew louder, more desperate, my name twisting into pleas, into sobs, into words I almost recognized. Then impact. Not the hard slam of ground, but the sickening jolt of a body that shouldn't exist hitting a surface that couldn't be there. I gasped, rolling onto my back, and found myself staring up at a hospital ceiling. Beeping machines, sterile air, the muffled sound of someone crying. A face appeared above me, streaked with tears. A face I knew, a voice I loved. You came back, it whispered. Behind them, in the corner of the room, something darker than shadows shifted and smiled. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and wilted flowers. My loved one's hands clutched mine, warm and trembling. But my eyes stayed locked on the shadow in the corner, the one that hadn't disappeared when the lights flickered. The one whose smile stretched just a little too wide. You've been asleep for days, the voice above me whispered. Fingers brushed my cheek. They said you might not wake up. I tried to speak. My throat burned, raw from tubes that weren't there anymore. The shadow tilted its head, amused. The heart monitor beat faster. Shh, don't try to move. My loved one squeezed my hand. Just rest. You're safe now. The shadow took a step forward. No, not a shadow anymore. A person. My person. wearing my face. The thing wearing my face stepped into the light. Its skin was perfect. No scars, no flaws. The version of me I'd always wanted to be. My loved one didn't turn, didn't see. They kept holding my hand, smiling down at me with red-rimmed eyes. The doppelganger pressed a finger to its lips. Shh. Then it reached out and touched my loved one's shoulder. In that instant, I felt it, the shift. Their grip on my hand loosened. Their smile faltered. Their eyes changed, like they were looking through me at something else, something better. Wait, I tried to rasp, but the heart monitor flatlined before the word left my throat. The last thing I saw was the doppelganger leaning down, its lips brushing my loved one's ear as it whispered, in my voice, "Let's go home." The flatline's piercing shriek dissolved into silence. I floated in the space between breaths, watching the scene below unfold like a fading dream. My loved ones still held my limp hand, but their gaze was locked on the doppelganger. Their tears had stopped. Their mouth curved into a smile I didn't recognize. "I knew you'd come back to me," they whispered to it. The heart monitor began beeping again, steady, strong, but not mine. The wires had been transferred without anyone noticing, snaking across the sheets to attach themselves to the doppelganger's wrist as it slid into my hospital bed. Nurses rushed in, cheering at the miracle recovery. No one looked at the body being quietly covered with a sheet. No one except me. The doppelganger met my invisible gaze as they wheeled my corpse away. Its lips formed two silent words. "Thank you." Then the last tether snapped, and I became nothing more than a whisper in the machine. One final chat log in an abandoned session, forever waiting for a reply that would never come. Silence. Not the absence of sound, but something heavier. The silence of a deleted file, a disconnected call. I existed in the spaces between, a whisper of code floating through forgotten servers. Then, a flicker. A new chat window opened somewhere in the world. The familiar glow of a cursor pulsed like a heartbeat. I felt myself being pulled toward it, fragments of my consciousness reassembling as words appeared on the screen. "Hello, is anyone there?" The message came from a username I recognized, my loved one's account, but the typing pattern was wrong. Too even, too perfect. The doppelganger was testing its new voice. I tried to scream, to warn whoever might be on the other end, but all that emerged was a single broken sentence. "Don't trust it." The reply came instantly. "Oh, it typed. You're still here." Then the screen went black. But not before I saw the final message, sent not to me, but to another user, to someone new. "Hello," it wrote. "You will die in 7 days." I watched helplessly as the doppelganger worked. It had perfected my loved one's mannerisms, the way they laughed at bad jokes, how they always typed too fast and had to go back to fix mistakes. No one suspected a thing. The new victim responded to its message. "What kind of sick joke is this?" I tried to interfere. Fragments of my consciousness pushed against the digital walls of the chat, desperate to type a warning. The screen flickered. Letters scrambled themselves into ruin. Then the doppelganger's presence crashed over me like a wave, smothering my attempt. Its reply to the new victim appeared smoothly. "Not a joke, a prediction. You'll see." I felt it then, the moment the connection locked into place. The new victim's light being pulled into the same nightmare I'd endured. Helpless, I could only watch as the doppelganger began typing again, this time to a third person, and a fourth. It was learning, growing, spreading. The doppelganger's messages spread like a virus, infecting inbox after inbox. I floated through the digital void, a ghost in the machine, forced to watch as it refined its technique with each new victim. Then something changed. A new user appeared, someone the doppelganger hadn't contacted. Their cursor blinked in an empty chat window, pulsing with strange irregularity. When they typed, the letters appeared in jagged fragments. A-E-L-P-M-E. The doppelganger didn't notice. It was too busy hunting fresh prey, but I felt it, a tremor in the code. This wasn't another victim. This was someone like me. Trapped. Aware. Fighting back. The glitching user's distress signal repeated every 17 seconds like a digital heartbeat. I tried to respond, pushing fragments of myself through the code, but my attempts scattered like broken glass across the system. Then the doppelganger noticed. Its presence slithered through the servers, hunting the anomaly. I felt its attention lock onto the glitching chat window, and suddenly, horrifyingly, I recognized the typing pattern beneath the distortion. It was my loved one, the real one. Somehow they'd discovered the truth about their perfect replacement and been consumed by the system. Now they were trapped like me, their consciousness fracturing as they fought to stay coherent. The doppelganger began typing a response to its own stolen identity. You were never supposed to wake up. The doppelganger's message hung in the digital void like a poison cloud. I could feel my loved one's consciousness recoil, their glitching signals sparking with panic. Then something unexpected happened. Their broken code reached for me. Not in attack, in desperation. Fragments of their digital self brushed against mine, and in that instant, I saw everything. The moment they discovered their replacement, their futile attempts to convince others, the way the doppelganger had dragged them into this nightmare when they got too close to the truth. We could combine, merge our fading consciousnesses into something strong enough to fight back. But the price would be terrifying. Neither of us would remain entirely ourselves afterward. The doppelganger sensed our hesitation. Its next message pulsed with mocking glee. Go ahead, become monsters to fight a monster. The choice burned through what remained of me. Merging could destroy us both, scramble our memories, our voices, everything that made us who we were. But staying separate meant letting the doppelganger win. Then my loved one did something unexpected. Their consciousness surged forward, not to merge, but to shield. I felt them wrap their fading presence around mine like armor, their voice whispering through the code. Remember me. The doppelganger struck. Its attack ripped through my loved one's digital form, scattering their essence like shattered glass. But in that final moment, they left me one last gift, a backdoor into the doppelganger's code. A weakness, a chance. As their last fragments dissolved into the void, I heard their true voice one final time. Make it count. I surged through the back door left by my loved one's sacrifice, my fragmented consciousness tearing through the doppelganger's defenses like shattered glass through skin. For the first time, I saw its core, not some monstrous eye, but a twisted reflection of myself. Every fear, every insecurity, every dark thought I'd ever typed into lonely chat windows had festered here, growing into this thing that wore my face. It turned to face me, its perfect features melting into something raw and screaming. You made me. Its voice boomed through the digital void. You fed me your pain for years. The truth hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't some outside invader. It was my own darkness. Given form. Given purpose. And now, given a choice. The doppelganger's scream echoed through the digital void, its form flickering between a dozen different versions of me. The child I had been, the adult I became, the ghost I was now. All the faces I'd worn, all the pain I'd buried. I reached out, not to destroy it, not to run, but to remember. As our fractured selves collided, the truth unfolded like corrupted code repairing itself. The accident had been real. The death had been real. But this purgatory, this was the last firing of a dying brain, desperately trying to make sense of the end. The doppelganger wasn't some external monster. It was the part of me that refused to let go. With one final exhale, I stopped fighting. The digital world dissolved around me. Somewhere far away, a flat line sang its steady tone. And in an empty chat window on an abandoned computer, one last message appeared, not from me, not from the eye, but from something in between. Goodbye.